Engine 1 from car 1. Car 1's on scene at Subin Command. Give me a CAN report.
What's going on, everybody? This is Mike Goldstein, Stickers of the CAN Report. Mazel tov, everybody. I'm coming at you with Nick Mercuri, New Hampshire, Lakes Region Community College. I have the pleasure of meeting Nick many, many times, part of the New Hampshire Fire Explorer Program Academy, and also talking with him about education for the Lakes Region Community College for their science program, fire science program. I'm so happy to have you on the show, Nick. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity to sit down and chat about everything fire science and the new conference we've got, or second year conference that we've got coming up here at the college, and just some of the education happening within the Lakes region in New Hampshire.
Yes, cool, I'm so excited to bring this knowledge to everyone in New Hampshire, pretty much everyone in New England, honestly. Like, I'm hoping that people actually listen. And since I got you guys hopefully listening and watching, make sure you are clicking like, subscribe, follow. It helps to keep this program going. It helps to make it grow and to get the message out. So if people are looking for education, knowledge, and where to go for conferences or how to get degrees, this is it. And this is why I built this platform, is for people to understand that there's more out there than just inside your own zip code or the four walls of your department. Like, get out there and actually see stuff. So I'm glad to have Nick out here to talk about what the Lakes Region Community College can do for us and how to further your education, and also the New Hampshire Fire and Rescue Conference. And so we're going to get into it. Nick, I'm going to bring up your bio and talk a little bit about you. So be comfortable.
Okay.
Nick Mercuri is currently the department chair of the Fire Science and Emergency Medical Services program at Lakes Region Community College, where he educates new and current firefighters and EMS first responders. He is a seasoned professional with over 35 years experience in the fire service, emergency medical services, and healthcare. He has served as an on-call firefighter, emergency medical technician in the Boston area, career firefighter and lieutenant paramedic, as well as Chief of EMS for the state of New Hampshire, and Chief of Strategy and Planning for the New Hampshire Fire Academy. Nick led change in the EMS system and Fire Academy, including the implementation of federal background check for EMS providers and a statewide EMS medical director, as well as coordinating an over $3 million federal grant for community paramedicine. During the state COVID response, Nick was part of the safety team, as well as the safety and wellness tracing team, emergency operations, and center decontamination coordination, and providing subject matter expertise and safety education and training to all 1,000 Department of Safety employees. That was a big one, man.
Yeah.
Nick is also the lead faculty for the University of New Hampshire's Fire Service Administration Bachelor's Program, where he coordinated the university's recognition as a fire and emergency services higher education institution by the National Fire Academy, and teaches fire service ethics. He is a graduate of Boston College School of Nursing, earned a master's in healthcare management for New England College, and is a graduate of the 4-year Executive Fire Officer Program at the National Fire Academy, where he researched and completed coursework concerning first responder stress and trauma during the opioid crisis in New Hampshire. Wow, Nick, that's amazing. You have done a lot. That is well accomplished, my friend.
Well, it's kept me off the streets, so to speak.
Well, I mean, that takes a lot.
It's been quite, yeah, it does take a bit. I need to stay busy, otherwise I get into more trouble than I usually am in.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, it's been a pretty cool career. I've been able to do a bunch of different things. I'm really happy to be able to give back. There's not a lot of professions these days, buddy, but you can do that every time you go to work. And this is one of them, whether it's emergency services, whether it's a fire service, or whether it's EMS, anything within emergency services, you can make a difference in somebody's day. It might not be big for us, but, as we all know, it could be the biggest thing that ever happened to that person. So it's been pretty cool to be a part of a lot of that in many different communities.
It's amazing. You're just still going strong. I mean, it's over 35 years. And
I don't look that old, do I?
You don't. I gotta tell you, you wear it well, Nick. You do not look that old. You don't look a day over 80. Just kidding.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah.
But it's impressive though. I mean, you're still going strong. You're not burnt out. You seem to have such a great attitude every time I meet you and every time I talk with you. You're just so positive and have such a great outlook on life. And you seem to be really passionate about education. And like you said, helping others is what we do. And through your education, you're helping so many others. And honestly, reading through your bio, I didn't know you did half the stuff that you're doing. So it's really impressive of what you've brought
Thanks,
to the
man.
table. And
Thanks.
during the COVID and opioid crisis that we've had, like that's some hard work that would burn a lot of people out.
Yeah.
So how did you honestly, how did you not get burnt out by that you did a lot? And
Yeah.
that's, I know it's not just you doing it, but
No,
that's a
no, no.
massive undertaking to help lead that.
No, no, that's always, and I tell, all the students wherever I've been and, especially here is, this is a team sport. This is not, it's just any individuals. It's a huge puzzle that we're putting together, and this is really a team effort. And everybody's got to be pulled in the same direction. And it's not that you don't have bad days. I mean, I certainly have had those struggles too. Work-life balance was not always a thing that I did very well. But it's something that I learned to do better as my career got on. We're trying to instill that in the students, early. But it is, was a difficult time dealing with, the opioids and figuring out and starting to get a picture of what was happening. And then doing a little work around my EFO papers around specifically healthcare or mental health care within New Hampshire for first responders. And it was really interesting. I got great results from the survey I put out, and I thank any responder that's listening that actually responded to that. I think it was 16, 17 when we put the survey out, and the amount we got back was incredible. Out of the 2,000-ish providers in the state, about 500 of them responded, which was to me incredible. But it also told me they want to be able to give information about this because it really is affecting them. And really what we found is it affected the higher level providers with the lower acuity calls. That's really what had come through that survey. That's how it was kind of answered when we crunched it. And I got some help from somebody that knows way more than I did. One of the folks that I actually had read an article on, I contacted her. She'd written many articles on, mental health and stress and first responders. And she was able to help me kind of crunch some of the numbers. And that's what really came out of it. It was those calls and tying up rigs, tying up ALS or, whether it's an A rig or whether it's a paramedic rig, tying it up for those lower level calls was really, part of a challenge, as was, any barriers to providing good care. Part of that was bureaucracy, part of that was paperwork, which, it's part of our world, unfortunately, even though we try to reduce that as much as we can.
Yeah.
Those are the things that really kind of were on people's mind during the opioid crisis. And then once COVID hit, boy, that changed the game. We went from, at the academy, I was down at the academy at that point, and we really went from a educational organization or, training organization to everything halted. Because we had to figure out and get our arms around how do we keep ourselves well, and then how do we keep the responders well, at the same time of keeping the 1,000+ employees at the Department of Safety. So the commissioner put together a team of which I was on. Like I said, this is a team sport, certainly not just me, but part of that small safety team. We went through everything we could with CDC, et cetera, got all the information we could, Health and Human Services. It's like, okay, how do we do this? And I was privileged to be able to go out and talk to all the Department of Safety employees, whether it was troopers or whether it was registry, whether it's DMV, or basically kind of being on call. It's like, if you got a question, here's my cell phone. Give me a call. We'll go through it if you've got questions, because even the information we were getting, as you probably remember, is, okay, well, it's Tuesday. Well, Wednesday it changed.
Yeah.
All right. And then by Saturday, we learned something different.
I think I remember the biggest term I kept hearing all the time in those meetings that I had to sit in,
Yeah.
because we do it around the lunch table for every time there was what was it? I think it was every week there was one big meeting for all the
Yeah.
departments, is building the plane while flying it. That was
Oh yeah.
the term that got thrown out a lot because it just the answers kept changing.
Yeah.
The standards kept changing, and we're just working with what we got, and the plane's flying, and we're just still trying to figure out how it actually works.
Yep. Yeah, that was one of those. Remember those balsa wood airplanes you could used to be able to fly? You just put them together and just kind of whip them, and some of them kind of flew pretty well, and some of them took a nosedive.
Yeah.
Um, so for us, it was yeah, we were definitely building as we were flying and changing things around, and it was trying to use the information that was most relevant to what was going on, and we knew that changing things is also extremely frustrating for people. But that's how we always try to package things. This is what we know today.
Yeah.
And, a week from now or a few days from now, it might be a little bit different. So, please be patient with us. We're trying to keep everybody safe, but also, not stick our head in the sands and shut everything down. It's, trying to strike that medium of life needs to go on, but how do we do it safely? So yeah, it was an interesting time. That's for sure.
Yeah. And then how do you feel like you're still trying to pick up the pieces for education wise since COVID? Are numbers back to where they were, enrollment back up, like good, strong,
Yeah.
or are you still guys falling behind?
No, I think we're actually doing pretty good. I left the fire academy, I think it was 4 years ago now, to come here and to come here to to Lakes Region Community College and take over for John Connell. So, Dr. Connell and Gary were here for 32 years, so I got a great foundation to be able to work towards. When John helped me transition into this role, and it allowed me to do something a little more specific. The fire academy roles were statewide roles, and some of them were national. But that was more statewide, and I really wanted to get back to a little bit more focused of education because all of us someday would like to retire. So it means we have to have good people behind us
Yeah.
that are ready to take these roles.
Little succession planning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So that's what really drew me to this role is be able to be a little bit more focused around that. And at that point in time, I think our numbers were still down a little bit. Education has changed. We are a hands-on group.
Yeah.
That's how we like to learn. But we also need to make sure that, there's something beyond training. And I do make a distinction between training and education. There are some educational pieces around training, but it's much more of the hands-on. The education, I can go into a lot more depth here. I've got a semester to go into fire behavior and combustion or building construction, or ethics, like you mentioned. Um, I have more time to pull things apart and, talk about, well, why do we do some things? Well, why do we not do some things? And have few more of those conversations, where the academy provides that good foundation, but I have more time to be able to delve into it. And certainly go into a few more topics than the academy has time for. But that's why they're an important puzzle piece to what we're doing here. They're a part of that foundation, and you do need your Fire 1 and 2 to graduate from LRCC. But that education, I think, is starting to grow. We've actually almost tripled our numbers in the
Wow.
past 4 years here, and I account that to making a couple of scheduling changes, working with Dustin Stream, who's my compatriot here. He's the other full-time instructor, and we've got a number of adjuncts that are you know top in their field for what we want to present to the students. And we've been able to, like I said, make a couple of quick scheduling changes, trying to make it a little bit easier for students to come and get to classes. But we also launched a completely online track last year. And I'll have to admit, we were a little hesitant of, we're a hands-on bunch and we're talking about online asynchronous learning, which is, do it at your own pace. So we're sweating about that a little bit. But what we really found is that having individuals that are looking for scheduling, basically um, ease of scheduling, I guess is a good way to put it. And, those individuals that have been on the job a little bit, maybe they want to come back or maybe they want to start their degree. If we tell them they have to be in Laconia Tuesday morning for 8 weeks to take this class, so it's like with my rotating schedule, I've got a couple of kids, they're in soccer or they're in,
Yeah.
fill in the blank. that was one of the barriers. So one of the things that Dustin and I really tried to do, and the administration here, Patrick Caton is the one who hired me, who's now the president of our college, and he has given us basically carte blanche. It's like, what do you need? And, Patrick and the community college have been great, as far as that. So we pitched a couple of different things. We're on 8-week terms now, so we've got 5 terms during the year. So basically, any 8 weeks you want to start, pretty much, you can start your degree with us, and you can be here in person or you can be in online. It's up to you. So I think that's it's a long answer to your short question.
Oh yeah.
I think that's really, the reason, Mike, that the numbers are really starting to grow here. I checked the numbers just a couple of days ago. We've got 79 applications for the fall, which is about triple.
That's amazing.
from what we've
How do
had
you
before.
bring them in? What are you doing to attract students for this program?
Yeah.
I mean, because obviously, like, yeah, we can say, hey, be a firefighter is great, get your degree, fire science. But as we know, it's also, I like to talk about, it's a blue collar job. Some
Mhm.
people went to this job in this field because they didn't need a college degree, because they
Right.
wanted to do, blue collar stuff, and, and have adult sleepovers and go to structure fires and,
Yeah.
and do fun stuff.
Yeah.
And they never thought about a college degree going into this field. So I think it's definitely changed. So
Yeah.
how do you attract membership?
Well, you've got a couple different questions, in there. So let me start with attracting the membership. Um, So for attraction for us, we certainly talk to a lot of the high schools. There are specifically 8 career technical centers, community technical centers attached to high schools that have emergency services tracks within the state. So we try to reach out to them. Some, like Concord specifically, we've got a couple of classes going on down there, where you can take basically as dual credit. You take a class there, which is actually one of our classes taught by one of our adjuncts, and you can come in with college credit.
Oh, that's great.
So, one of the ways is really making sure that students in high school or otherwise know that this is a field, and this is, one of the odd things that, yes, I've been into this a little while, and you joined us, a little while ago too. But even I think probably when you got hired, is um, there was a lot more jobs than there were people.
Yeah.
Okay, when you talk about this 30 or something years ago, it was absolutely opposite. So, you had a couple of jobs and you might have had, 100 people going for those jobs. So things have certainly changed. So if you want to get into the field, do you have to have a college education? No, you don't. You have to have some certifications from the Fire Academy to be hired. And even there's rare instances now where there are some departments that'll send you, um, to the academy to get your certification. So do you need it? No. But what I tell a lot of the students that are coming up is that if you're going to do this as a career, if this is your main gig, you want to know as much about something that can kill you as possible.
Mm.
Now, the Fire Academy, like I said, it's great. It's a good foundation, but you want to make sure that you build on that. And that's where I feel we fit in, is that if you're going to do this for 20, 30 years, like I said, in an occupation that's not only changing, but an occupation that can kill you, you want to know as much as possible about, fire behavior, building construction, fire alarm systems, the tools of the trade. So even though it's blue collar, the education pieces make us a safer provider. And certainly looking at some of the things that are coming down the pike when you start looking at electric vehicles, and some of these commuting computing centers that they're building,
Yeah.
that are popping up, within our communities. We've got to know a lot more about this. And can you get some continuing education? Yes, but we're more than that. So that's where I kind of see where we fit in. So do you need that education? No, not to get in the door, but if you're going to do it for a while, and especially if you're going to move up,
Yeah.
this is never where I thought I'd be sitting. Okay. As chief of EMS for the state was never on my bucket list of things to do. Chief of strategy and planning and looking at legislation and looking at, big picture stuff, never on my bucket list.
Yeah.
It was riding in a fire truck, maybe being that front right seat, and that was it. But to get to have more doors open, you need to have the education behind it. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the big things, is that you may not need or may not know where you want to go now. But if you do want more doors open, education is part of that requirement.
Yeah.
is we need to know much more about our communities. And actually, that's why we partnered with UNH too, is to bring these two puzzle pieces together. Basically, and I don't know if you and I have chatted about this, but basically we came up with an agreement with UNH that if you are admitted here to LRCC, you basically have dual admission to UNH. Should you want to
That's
go
great.
on, you can go right into the UNH program if you want to.
Mm.
Not everybody will be ready right after their 2 years. They may not want to do that. You can take a little bit of time, get some, time under your belt and go back to UNH. But we worked out virtually a dual admission, which is kind of cool. So it's what or how much education do you want to have around a particular topic? And certainly the education from UNH is more administrative when people get to that point and when they're ready for it. But it's puzzle pieces. And one of the things I also talk about is to a lot of our students is like, think about Legos. All right. All right. I might be showing my age, but think about Legos. They got some very cool Legos these days that we didn't have when my kids were growing up.
Yeah.
There's so many options these days, but think about Legos. If you're going to put some things together, not only do you have to have the right pieces, you've got to have them in the right order, and you've got to have what you need to build, fill in the blank. Education is kind of like that. Is that one of the Legos or one of the pieces is the academy? The other piece is, that higher education, but you've got to have these pieces together, and that's what opens doors for you. And hey, if you want to ride the fire truck, and be that backseat person for your entire career and be the best you can be at that role, hey, we need that too. But we also need other individuals in each of the other roles, including all the way up to chief officer.
Yeah.
So, and that takes the more education and the more experience you can get to run the organizations, just because everything that gets thrown at us. We get a lot thrown at us these days.
They certainly do.
Firefighting ends up being as you get up the ranks, firefighting ends up being the easier part, which is really kind of wild.
It is. You're absolutely right. Well, okay, you think about budgeting, you think about the standards and protocols and politics and everything that's involved. Like that's, I I don't want to be a chief because that stuff scares me. Like structure fires don't, but sitting in a town hall meeting or dealing with a mayor or dealing again, these, if we have like a crisis, a COVID, or opiate, or some terrorists or things like that, that's you have to be trained and educated in dealing with those matters. And definitely what I tell my daughters, I have 15-year-old daughters going on 16, and dealing with the kids in the Explorer program, I push the education thing hard because I don't want them to be behind the eight ball when they become, it's definitely like we've talked about before, it becomes more difficult to get these things done when life happens. When you're 18 years old, this is the time to do it because you have less responsibilities. When you're 30 something years old, you now got kids, you now have a full-time job, you have to pay mortgage, you have to pay car payments, all these things pile on. And I've said it many, many times. I'll do it next year, or it's on my list of things to do, right? And 5 years rolls by. I haven't gotten that done yet. All right. And it'll be on my to-do list. This will be my New Year's resolution. And, and it just never happens. And all of a sudden you're 40 something years old and you're like, crap, I haven't gotten that part yet. And now, like you talked about though, if you're looking to move up, that's the hard part. Now you're behind the eight ball. Now you have to race to get that done. And you almost don't really get to enjoy it. And one of my biggest regrets though, because I never went to college, one of my biggest regrets is I never got to do that experience of going to college and having that, honestly, that college life. It's from the outside looking in, man, it looked like it was fun. And I never got to experience it. And that's on me. I could have done it. I just chose to work instead because I needed money. And looking back, that's one of my biggest regrets. And I tell that to my kids is that
you're not too young, man.
Right? No, I'm not.
You're not too young, brother.
We've had these discussions, and I do feel like that is on my list. Is I want that done because, and it's not even just for moving up wise. It's because that's how can I preach to my children about education and the importance of it if I'm not doing it myself. And I think it's so important. And I love that those factors you're hitting on is that if you want to move up in life, these are the key elements that you need. Those puzzle pieces need to be put together. And I love riding the back seat. I love driving too. So those are two things I really, really enjoy. But also if you want to move up in life, and like I've said before in other programs, that if you aren't happy with the choices that the department makes where they hire as officers or chiefs, well, you could put your name into the ring, but you have to do the work to get there. And so if you don't want to do that work, then you have no right to complain. Whomever gets promoted or whoever becomes those chief positions, you could have done it too.
Yeah.
You just didn't want to put in that work and get that education.
Well, I have always, I worked for a chief in Guilford that kind of explained the rank as an upside down pyramid. It's all about perspective and information, right? As while we're riding the seats, we're at that basically tip of the pyramid that's upside down because our perspective is a little bit narrow, and the information that we have is not all of it. As you move up to the ranks, whether it's lieutenant or captain or bat chief or anything above that, that's when you start going, oh, there is more perspective to this. There's more to this decision. And as you get to the chief officer roles, you realize that there are a lot of things at play that sometimes we don't think about. When we're riding the engine or we're riding the truck or riding the rescue, that because we don't have to. And honestly, that's not something you want to be thinking about when you're trying to go do your job.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was one of the things, when I was doing the EMS role in the state, and we were talking about protocols and investigations was under me, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, I never want the rules or the protocols. And I don't want you to be thinking about those at 2:00 in the morning when you're trying to help the patient. Patient always comes first. If there's something we need to adjust, we'll fix it in the morning, but you are always to put the patient first. And it's kind of the same thing with us, is that we always need to put the communities first. Yeah. And sometimes having more education, and you mentioned moving up. I mean, that's one thing, but there are also opportunities that, hey, if you want to stay in the back seat, you want to drive, still making sure that you know more than the foundational information and education that you got at the academy is also important, because things change, because the information we have is perishable. I took my stuff a long time ago, and I can tell you that when you look at UL and some of the things coming out of UL, that was contradictory to what we were taught.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because they're doing it with data, they're doing it with information. And Lieutenant Jim Duckworth teaches fire behavior for us. And I love listening to Jim. I sit on his classes every once in a while. I love listening because I'm like, man, that is not what we were told. That's not what they said fire was going to do.
Right.
So we're always learning about stuff. We're always putting those Legos together. So whether you want to move up or not, yes, moving up, you probably should have more of that education, because you need to have the perspective. And, there are some individuals I run across that go, well, there's no, you have to have the experience, right? There's no substitution for real world experience. And I don't disagree with that whatsoever. But if you're not in a huge department where you have HR issues all the time, and maybe that's not a department you want to be in, or has cultural issues, is it a positive culture? Is it a negative culture? Do you have HR issues? Do you have budgetary issues? Unless you run across a lot of problems in your department, you don't have the opportunity to learn. And that's where education comes in, is where you can take a look at case studies where, hey, where do we learn from people?
Yeah.
We learn from other departments doing things that go, oh, maybe we wouldn't do that here. That's where education can come in. There's no substitute for practical experience, but if you wait for all of your information to come from practical experience, you'll be long since retired before you hit all the topics that you need to.
Well, we're in our business, I'd say for firefighters, we're in the business of putting out fires, but it's the same thing as having that education and knowing how to mitigate those hazards before they become a hazard. And chief positions and otherwise, it's really about putting out those quote unquote fires of life. And like you mentioned, the triangle, the upside down pyramid, honestly, that's when the poop starts rolling down that corner of the pyramid. And that's comes to me of having a chief that's educated or an officer that's educated, knowing the ins and outs of the workings of everything. And if you're not educated in how to deal with personnel and, again, budgetary issues and other things that just get thrown your way, you're again behind the 8 ball, and you're like, oh man, I was never prepared. And experience is experience. Like, knowing how the fire is going to work and how to use your tools, that's definitely the hands-on. But like you said, like there's more to it, and knowing how to deal with those things that life get thrown at you. And I think for like in the education part of it, like I've seen it now as I gotten older, I realized like it really is important, because it's not just a piece of paper. You're not becoming just a paper firefighter. There is more to it, of getting that education to understanding how the world works outside of just throwing your tools at a door and forcing that door open.
Right.
There's more to it of dealing with these other matters at hand that we don't get to see, and nor do we really want to see half the time.
Mhm. Yep.
So
There's just this huge picture, whether it's actually, the firefighting aspect or the management aspect, but there's also that leadership aspect of it too.
yeah.
Are you going to be a good mentor? Like you with the fire explorers, that's really an awesome responsibility within the state, because that's one of the voids that we have is, being a positive mentor to somebody could be the difference between having a really great person in the fire service or somebody that's just here that,
Yeah.
that shows up and clocks out, at their shift end, and you never see them until till their next shift. And that's something that is kind of missing. We're losing some of that. It's turning into, somewhat of a clock in, clock out for some folks. So that is, one of the soft skills or soft topics that we do like to work into our program here at Lakes is it's how do you actually work in a fire service or a fire department? The live-in program is really important for us, much like you with the fire explorers is we want you to be able to understand the fire service. And that means if you have an opportunity to do the live-in program at one of our local departments, which I think we're up to about 12 now,
Oh wow.
that we partner with, that that really solidifies what we're doing here. It says that you can work within a fire service environment and you can do well with it and you understand what you're getting into. And, I know that there are jobs out there where they have the journeyman, et cetera, with whether it's electrical or plumbing, but you don't live there.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the big things. You have built-in brothers and sisters, big brothers and sisters, whether you want to or not, you've got them.
Yeah.
And I think that can really help any student that takes advantage of that program and does a live-in. It helps them understand what they're getting into, but it's also living with a group of people. How do you live with a group for 24 hours and still be productive and still be a positive a positive team member, at that department?
Now, for the
So,
live-in program,
yeah.
are the students now getting paid for this program? Is it, and if they are getting paid, who pays for it?
Oh, that's a great question. So we have a collaboration with the departments, but that's where we kind of step out of it. We have a couple of meetings a year with the departments to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page and make sure that students have the time to get their work done because they're here trying to learn the role, not just, what's happening at the departments. There are some departments that will put them on as call members, so they'll get paid by the department. Sometimes it's a stipend. Every department does it a little bit differently. And like I said, that's where we stay out of the employer-employee relationship.
Mhm.
But each department has the ability to do and set that up any way that they feel, is appropriate. So if they are going to pay them, it's going to come from the department. But oftentimes they'll have a schedule. They'll be able to go to training. So it really does round out what's happening here. And allows them to, learn something and then go back to their station. And they might see a call that we just talked about that morning. So it really is a great opportunity when it can happen.
And that's set up through the Lakes Region Community Center College, correct? Like, so when they're doing their fire science degree program, and if they want to do a live-in program, do they apply? Do they interview? And a
Yeah.
college sets that up for them?
We actually don't set it up for them, but what we do is we make the connections. So that's where it's more the collaboration. We keep a pretty active list of departments that does change, just change from year to year. There are departments that take a little bit of a break and they come back to us, et cetera. But we have a list of departments that goes to each one of our students that's been accepted. And then we talk about it at orientation. We talk about it a few times to if anybody's that interested, we kind of talk through what are they looking for, how they get in touch with the department, and then we kind of guide them in that direction. So they need to contact the department. And a lot of the departments will have a website up that has some other basic information about how to apply to them. But once we kind of push them in that direction and we answer some questions, then it's between the students and the department. Each department has a different time frame and a little bit of a different process for the application. So that's where we kind of make sure that they get in touch with the department.
That's fantastic. And so they're employees of that department for that live-in program. They get to run calls, live at the station for shift works,
Yeah.
and get that education and knowledge. And I think I've when I've talked to other students, sometimes now when they get out of that living program, then they can actually go apply back to that department as a full-time member.
Yep.
And I've seen it actually happen. It's working. And I think
Yeah.
that's great to see is that as I'm talking to these college students, they're actually applying back to that department they were doing that program with, and then they
Right.
go back as a full-time member.
Right.
And man, that's how to pay it back. And recruitment and retention is making sure you're attracting these 18-year-old
Yep.
to 20-some-year-olds to come back to that department.
Well, we kind of had talked about Legos, and this is another one of those, is that when departments are looking for somebody, besides the fact if you're a live-in student, you're basically doing a 12 to 24-month interview. We talked to the students about that too, is that many departments have openings. They may not have them right now. They may be creating a list, but there are many more openings right now than there are people. So now is the time, certainly if you want to get in, boy, now is the time to do it.
Yeah.
But this is that kind of that interview process. And it's another Lego that you can stack. If they're looking at an individual just with certifications out of the academy, and then they look at somebody with a certificate or a degree from us, and then you've done the live-in program, there's going to be a difference there. And that's, that Lego conversation that I have with the students of is the more that you can stack, the better options that you're going to have. So if you've got your certifications from the academy, yeah, there'll probably be some departments that you can work at, but it might not be where you'll want to work.
Yeah.
You stack these Legos and basically you can work wherever you want, in our state, in New England, across the country, and internationally if you want.
That's
So
amazing.
the options out there are definitely numerous. And we actually, Dustin Stream sets up a job fair with us about every March or April. And every year we've done it, and I think we've done it 3 years in a row now. We've had 20 plus departments here on campus for a day. And most have jobs. Some of them have multiple jobs. There's a few that are creating lists, but the vast majority of them have openings right then and there.
Yeah.
Which is great for our students. It's a great opportunity to interact with potential employers. We talk about, hey, let's get your resume together. You want to work on a cover letter, dress for an interview when you come in, because it is a small state. It's a small service. That's some of the other, you and I have had that conversation before, is that having the conversation with the explorers or our students, like, this is a small industry. It's not just state New England, it's national. There's folks that, I've met at the National Fire Academy and I stay in touch with, that
Yeah.
if I run into a challenge, I put it out, to my friends across this country, that, hey, what do you think about this? And those are the relationships that you can make when you're part of the fire service. And, I kind of joke with my kids who are, 27 and 28 now, where, you can pull in whenever, wherever. And you identify yourself as, hey, I'm a firefighter from New Hampshire. Hey, come on in. You want a cup of coffee? You want to join us for dinner?
And then it's the same question on the same as that is, hey, do you know so and so?
Yes.
Because everyone thinks that when you're from New Hampshire, you know everybody in New Hampshire.
Yep.
So especially if you're in the fire department, then everyone thinks you know every firefighter in the state of New Hampshire. So it's,
Right.
and we are, like you said, it is a small world. And honestly, when I get to teach at the academy, and we have people that come in for interviews, those are some of the questions that get asked. Hey, you teach at the academy. Do you remember this person? Do you remember that person? And these are conversations we've had. And I tell the explorers, and I tell the students at the academy, it's the same thing, is that every day, like you said, every day is an interview. And if you're not putting in the work at the academy, when you go to apply at a department that I'm at or somewhere else, they're going to remember you. Those instructors are going to remember you, because the majority of our instructors work for other departments. So we're interviewing as well. We're seeing you on the drill yard, and we're gonna remember you. So if you come to our department and you're a hard charger, we're like, yeah, that person right there, that was a mate. You need to hire them right now, because we remember them being positive and working hard and asking good questions, not just sitting on the sidelines and just, I'm here because I got nothing else to do.
It's not that people have a bad day, right? Everybody can have a bad day, but when you look at trends, are you generally speaking that hard charger or person that's going to put in the work? Or are you always last to volunteer for the evolution?
Right.
Are you always up there? Are you asking good questions? Are you being respectful? It's that trend, right? Like, everybody's got a bad day. You, me, student,
Yes.
we all have a bad day sometimes. But overall, are you here to help your community?
Yep.
You know?
Yep. Love
And
it.
if you're
Now,
not, maybe this isn't the line of work for you.
right, and not everyone's meant to be a firefighter, and not
And that's,
everyone's meant
yeah,
to do
and
first
that's
responder
okay.
field, right? And
That's
that's okay.
Yeah, that's part of the conversation that we have here, is that it's as important to find out or know, what do you want to do versus what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Because if you come here and you go, oh boy, I went to fire 1 and 2, and I barely passed, and I don't know if this is really what I want. That's okay.
Yeah.
If you want to go do something else, we can kind of help with that too. Besides the college, having other tracks and stuff, those are the conversations Dustin and I have with the students. It,
I love
it is okay. You have permission to go do something you like.
it.
We want you to do that.
Right.
You know,
I love that.
that's
So
that's important.
with the LRCC program,
Yeah.
what is it? What do they get out? Can you tell me, like, I know we get the certs, but what are the things they get out of it?
Okay. So the LRCC program, basically, it's been around. We just hit 50 years this past September.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's been wild. And actually, like I mentioned, Dr. Connell and Gary were here for 32 of it. So the program itself is actually just coming up on 51 years old. And over the years, what it basically is, we are the only fire science program in the state that offers basically two different tracks. Is you can get a certificate track, a college certificate. I don't mean pro board. So you can get a college certificate. And that is 30 credits, 30 college bearing credits, where you'll take, everybody's got to do Fire 1 and Fire 2 at the academy. That's a condition of graduation for either track. So we've got the certificate track, which I'll go into a couple of classes in a minute. And then we've got the associate's degree track, which is 2 years. And the courses are slightly different than the certificate track, but you also get the general education courses. And once again, that you're halfway to your bachelor's. That is a, college 61 credit program. In each of the programs, you have to do your Fire 1, Fire 2. You've got to do your EMT. So you can transfer it in. And that's, when I talked about, the online track that we have, if you have a pro board cert or even an IFSAC certification for Fire 1, Fire 2, we'll transfer it in for credit. Same thing with your national registry. If you get your national registry EMT, because that's required for graduation, you don't have to take it with us, but I could transfer it in, but I do need it. So the certificate then goes into fire behaving combustion, building construction, fire prevention, fire protection. We've changed our program around a little bit, so every student takes the National Fire Academy Safety and Survival course. It's not the same one at the academy. It is the National Fire Academy course. So it's a little bit different. Name's pretty much the same. So everybody takes that. And then we actually just started, with the help of Pete Lennon, we just dusted off our fire inspector class here, which is the new standard. So it's fire inspector. It used to be 1 and 2. And then I think it's, the first level is escaping me now. I think it's company officer inspector or something to that effect. Pete would make fun of me because I can't remember the title. And then it's fire inspector is what the old 2 was.
Okay.
So Pete just started doing fire inspector. So we've added that to our certificate. So the degree program is pretty similar to that. You have a couple of other options for electives, like we'll do Fire Officer 1 is an option. We just started basically a current events class, which we're going to teach for the first time this spring. Over the couple of years that Dustin and I have been here, things have changed. Like when you start talking about mental health and when you start talking about electric vehicles, we're like, we really need another class as an option. So when people are going out the door, they have the most up-to-date information because, they can get, if you don't stay on top of the classes, they can get a little static.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're constantly updating, which is, one of the benefits of being here. So they have fire officer, they could do this current events class. So they are just slightly different, as far as the 2 tracks, but we have those 2 tracks. What that gives you is a lot more foundational information. Like I said, you can start with the academy and that's, a Lego or 2. When you come here, you can take a lot of the topics under the Fire 1 and Fire 2, and I get to teach them over 8 weeks. So where the Fire Academy might have a couple of hours to do what they need to do, that's the foundation, that's enough to keep you safe. I can take that information and then I can expand it over 8 weeks. So I get another 45 hours of education, plus work that's done on the outside of the class to really take those topics and really delve into them more, or take them apart, or talk to, more with UL and FSRI and things like that. So what Lakes does for us is you'll get a couple of certifications out of it. We're working on trying to get more pro board certs offered here, or IFSAC certs. So we're trying to work in that direction. So you'll get a couple of certs here. You'll get your 1 and 2. You'll get your EMT if you didn't bring it in. And then you'll have those other topics that I talked about. And then once you graduate, you'll get your certificate or your degree.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So
Yeah.
you're coming out with everything
Mhm.
for that's needed for the job. And that is great. And now you mentioned electives. I think we talked about this before. If somebody wanted to if they have their basic and they want to get their A,
Yes.
can that be an elective?
Yes. Thank you for the reminder. Yeah, that will take the place of 2 electives.
Okay.
So you can take your advanced here. And I know we're talking about the fire side of the house, but in the department, we also now have the paramedic program. So
That's right.
We're starting our 4th class this fall. And I think, graduated 45 paramedics so far, in our first 3 cohorts. The
That's
3rd
amazing.
cohort is just ending in the next couple of weeks, and then the 4th one's going to start. And that really was the request of the system. The fire departments, the EMS directors, they were looking for a different program. So, NHTI, Elliott, they've been around for a long time. They have solid programs. They were looking for something different, which is why we created a 12-month program. It is fast. You've got to have some good experience to be in this program, to make sure that you've got the perspective and to be able to stay up with some of the work. You've got to have some of that experience. But it is a 12-month, once again, it's a college credit program. You end up with 36 credits from our program. And you'll be able to take the national registry within 12 months. So we've got that on the other side of the house too, which are both the umbrella under this department.
That's fantastic, man. That is, I love what you guys are doing. And that's why when I do the Explorer Academy, we bring them in because we want them to see this.
Yep.
We need to spread that word far and wide that there's this education out there. And honestly, when we bring the kids over, they love it. They love what you guys have to offer. I love that you guys make it interesting and interactive with them. You're showing them the EMS side of things. You have your EMS classrooms, and they get to go in there. You're showing them how to stop the bleed and some patient trauma, and they're playing Jenga with building to learn about building construction and. You have the fire behavior props in there. And I love though, like, cause you and I had some really good in-depth conversations about also the ethics side of it, also about how to get the job. I love the deep conversations that you and I have. And that's one of the reasons why I want you on here, is because we talk about, you get your college degree, especially if they're like 19 years old, but they don't know what to do next, like how to get the job. And like you talked about, like every day is an interview. You go in for those open houses or the job days, and you need to go in wearing a suit, looking good, asking good questions, because these recruiters are coming in, and if you show up in sweats and shorts, you're not taking it seriously. And I love talking about that when I'm teaching, when I have a break, and I always ask that question, show of hands, who wants to be a career? And usually it's a big group of them. And the next question is, do you know how to get the job? And usually it's the hands go down. I have no idea. Let's talk about that. And that's one of the things, like, for education, we miss. We give them all this great information. We give them fire behavior knowledge. We give them how to put the fires out and how to take care of patients. But, they walk out, and now what? Now, when you sit down for that oral board interview or just building your resume, how are you giving them a resume? And I love the fact that you're teaching them how to build your resume. This is how you should make it look. These are things you should add. Don't make it a 2-page, document. Like, you may just scale it down a little bit, how the important stuff. And then again, talking about those questions that might potentially be asked, because they're out there hiring, they want you, but you got to also promote yourself, and you got to go in there with that knowledge of how to conduct yourself in an interview.
Right.
And I love the fact that you're teaching that.
It really is amazing having the conversations with students, because things are so digital these days. Is sitting down and having like the conversation you and I are having. It's like you're going to need to have this conversation and be comfortable with it, with individuals in white shirts and gold.
Yeah.
part of your oral board is they're going to ask you some questions, and it doesn't take much to go Google some of those questions. These are some standard questions. Are they going to be exact? No, but they're going to want to know. They want to get to know you. So,
Yes.
where are you from? What do you believe in? How would you deal with this situation? And, it's that proverbial, okay, you're getting, conflicting orders from people higher up than you. And, what do you do? And, trying to have the conversation with them is like, what you do is not what they're looking for. You
Right.
know, yes, you might really screw up the answer. Okay, that's possible. But they also know you're an entry level firefighter. You might even be a step below that,
Yeah.
at this point of the oral board. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking to see, do you get flustered under pressure? Do you change your answer? If somebody questions you, do you waffle around?
Yeah.
And we have some of those conversations in the
Do
class.
you do mock interviews with the students at all when you're talking about doing the interviews and building your resume? Do you actually have maybe some scenarios for them to sit in front of a board and how to deal with that?
Not as much as I would like to yet. We've had some of those conversations about, what are the things that you talk about? And it's more of a group discussion. We've talked about having a little bit more of an oral board practice and setting up like a Saturday coming up.
Hmm.
Like in the fall or in the spring, and hey, let's do some practice. Come on in. It's open. It doesn't have to do with the course, but these are some of the things that you can come on in and practice. And like you mentioned, resume writing is part of one of the courses that I teach.
That's beautiful.
Okay, hey, let's formalize this a little bit more. Give me your resume. Let me give you some feedback on it. And like, okay, well, why do you have 32 different fonts and words are all over the place, and I can't even follow who this is? I'm not even sure what experience you have, and I know you. So
that is great. I
yeah,
love
so
that.
there's
What
some
an important thing to do. I think
yeah,
that's fantastic.
it's those are the important things, honestly, Mike, to work into. Those are the soft skills
Yeah.
that aren't part of the outcomes of the class, so to speak, or program, but they are very important.
Super important because I could also they got these high hopes of going out into the world after they got their degrees and certifications and they're going to get the job that they want and everything they got it's already planned ahead of them. They already know what they want. They've done the work. They've got their education, and then so like I'm going to go on this department. This is the department I want,
Yep.
and I'm going to go for that job, and I'm going to get it, and I'm going to be the best. And all of a sudden, like they get knocked down because they didn't know how to understand how to build a resume or to sit down in front of an oral board and how to be solid with your answers. And then that's that defeat, like, crap, why didn't I get it? And I love the fact that you're educating them to understand, like, you have to give your best of yourself and understand that these questions are not to put you down or to ridicule you, but they want to know what kind of person you are.
No,
And
they want to, they want to get to know you. So these are, some common things. So put some thought into it.
yeah,
It's okay to prepare.
yeah,
Yep. We want you to study for these things.
I always tell people, like, when someone
okay.
asks you, like, one of the big important questions that a lot of departments ask, why do you want to work for this department?
Yep.
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
Right. Because if they're going to say, what about this place? And if you just say, well, because you were hiring or you pay more than everybody else, it's going to be a crap answer. They're going to say,
get
thank
shiny
you very
trucks.
much.
I like those,
Right.
not helpful.
But they want to hear what you've done your homework. And that's like, we tell them all the time, like, do your homework on your departments, know the demographics, know the area better than those people who are interviewing you, because those are the ones who want to know that you've done the homework. Ask for ride time, ask to see the station, to meet people. That way, when you go for the interview process, like, oh yeah, this is Mike. He just did 2 days of ride time with us and he asked 1,000 questions and he met like 2 battalions. And man, that guy really wants to know about this department. He really wants to be here. Those are the people they're going to look for. And I know it's kind of tough because other people will say, well, it's a buyer's market. You're not getting that many people through the door anymore. And, they might just take every Tom, Dick, and Harry. But at the same time, they still want people that want to be here.
Right. But I think that's the flip side to the argument, though, is that it is a buyer's market. So the individuals who are cream of the crop, top tier, well, however you want to describe that, they are going to have the pick of departments. Do you want them? That does mean we're going to have to put in a little bit of effort. And that's, with the job fair that we found here, most people that we've talked to is like, when we got hired, we never had to do this. This is so foreign to us, having to sit here and sell our departments to individuals. And unfortunately, that's the market. at this point. There are many more jobs than people, and I don't think that's going to change in the short-term future. Anyway,
It's like athletes. We're actually now out scouting
yeah,
for
yes,
the best athletes. We really are. And when we go to the CPAT, you got all the departments lined up watching the CPAT. And as
yep,
soon as those rock stars come out, whoever passes, right?
yep,
Hey, here's my card. You should really come to my department and check it out, because we don't want those guys or girls to go to somebody else.
yeah,
And we're actively trying to recruit the best, because it is a buyer's market, but
right.
the pool is shorter, and
Mhm.
we're trying to get the best of the best. So
Yeah,
it's crazy to see the world change, but we're doing our best to live in it and
yeah.
and make sure our departments are thriving.
We're
So
getting there.
we're
It's
getting there.
everybody's got a puzzle piece, right?
So with education and some
Yeah,
good stuff going on, we also have the New Hampshire Fire and Rescue Conference coming up. This is your second annual
yep,
conference at the Lakes Region Community College in
yeah.
Laconia. Tell me a bit about that.
So this started as kind of a brainchild of the Lakes Region Training Committee, and this was offered in the Lakes Region, many years ago when I was still on the truck. So that was quite a while ago, and they wanted to bring it back. And I'm a member of the committee that I joined when I came here to Lakes Region, and we had kind of talked about it that we wanted to bring it back. So we started to do some of the planning, and they were looking for a place, and I'm like, well, the college seems like it's the place to put it. We've got all the classroom. We've got all the things we basically would need
Yeah.
to run this. So that's how it kind of started. We did it last year. I think we had 35 or so, folks. So this is the second annual. We're still doing, one day at this point in time. It's on September 13th of this year. Um, you can sign up for it. We have, I keep forgetting the total number, over 26, I think, actually individual classes. We got a couple of different tracks, more operational and then more supervision.
And here we go right here.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, man. So I think it's going to be, a great time. We've got a lot of different things. We've got a lot of different individuals. Some of them are within New Hampshire. Some of them are not within New Hampshire. Um, Firefighter Minahan Jr. from Boston is going to be coming up. Aaron Heller is going to be doing our keynote.
Yeah,
So
I'm
we've got
excited for
a
that.
lot of folks here on doing a bunch of different topics. Like I said, I've got some New Hampshire folks, some non-New Hampshire folks. We're going to be talking about supervision. We're going to be talking about ladder companies. We're going to be talking about engine operations. We've got a couple of EMS classes thrown in.
And here's the agenda for the week, for the day.
Yeah, so this is going to be, for that one day. It'll be here at the college. You could sign up. There is a QR code I think you had on there where you can sign up, pay. Everything is on Eventleaf. And I think it's going to be a really great day of some training. You're going to be doing some stuff with us, also here. So we'll be using our fire lab. We'll be using our EMS lab and several of the other classrooms.
I'm very excited for it. You have a great list here.
Yeah.
You've got Will Tallheimer, Steve Barton, Scott Cathy,
Yep.
Ryan Johnston, Patrick O'Connor. And what's really cool is you are able to see the screen of the other presenters right now, correct?
I cannot. I can see the conference though.
Let me stop that.
All righty.
And I'm going to bring up another one here because I want people to see that. I love the fact that you also have, you've got people from out of state though too. And it's not just New Hampshire based, which I love it being local based, but I love the fact that you've got presenters from other areas as well.
Right. It's great when you have a mix because you hear from New Hampshire folks who know New Hampshire, but you also hear from individuals to bring in other perspectives. And when we talked about perspectives earlier, awesome. There we go. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
So taking a look at these conferences and some of the topics, listening to other people just helps you understand different perspectives and different approaches to things.
It's fantastic. I love it that you're bringing in all angles in here. And you talked about Duckworth. You got Duckworth here. Just amazing people that I love listening to, and I think people get a lot out of. We got our man here, Rusty Ricker.
Rusty's coming, yes, right. Yep.
He's going to deliver a great presentation on brotherhood in the fire service. Obviously, our New England Fools president. And then you have Larry DiCamillo from Texas, Seaside Consultants. That's, I think, is really cool.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you've got him. He is a wealth of knowledge for ladder work, for aerials. And then you bring it right back to, we have Lieutenant Meyer, Nashville Fire. He's very, very active in the New Hampshire Fire Academy. He teaches a lot about physical fitness in the New Hampshire Fire Academy. Steve Barton, new lieutenant for Manchester Fire, who's again a wealth of education and knowledge, and very passionate about the fire service. You just have such amazing people that love to spread their knowledge and education. And so this is going to be a day event, and this is the second one, and you said you're just going to keep on going with it, correct? And you're going to try to make it. What's on the plans for next year?
So those are a little bit up in the air as far as whether we'll keep it a 1 day or whether we'll try to expand it to a 2 day. It kind of depends. Depends on the numbers, depends on the interest. If people want to have us keep growing it, we'll still work on that. And that might be, might expand it next year. We're definitely still going to keep doing it, but it really depends on, on, like I said, on individuals and whether people, want it. Do they want a bigger conference or do they not want a bigger conference? So
that's fantastic.
We're kind of, I know there's a wishy-washy answer to your question, but yes, we will still do it. How it's going to look? Ask me in January.
And so when you're accepting presentations from speakers or hands-on, what are you guys looking for?
We're looking
for, like, say, planning for next year.
Yeah. So for next year, what we're looking for is, first and foremost, we're going to go back to the evaluations that people fill out, because that is a big chunk of what drove us choosing what we did this year. And I will say, I'm really humbled that when we put out the call for presenters, we had more presenters than slots.
Wow.
And that is really, really awesome. That's not something that I expected. And I tell you, it's a very, very humbling experience. So first and foremost, it'll be driven by the students and what do they want for next year. So that's what we're going to try to take a look at. We'll take a look at what was of interest to people. We're also going to take a look at, okay, kind of what's current. What are we hearing, through all our sources around, what are some of the topics? You mentioned Steve Barton. So we're going to try to do, there's going to be a couple of ladder sessions and we're going to try to dovetail those together so you can potentially go from one to the other with a little bit of a different focus, so to speak. So we are still going to look for some operational things, what's hot, what's current. We're also going to look for, some of those supervisory and mentorship items that, that's one of the things that as a fire service, I think we need to make sure that we're not eating our young, that we're growing them. And that's an important thing. We need to make sure that the fire service grows and we have the individuals that we need, not only on the trucks, but leading the departments. And that's, what we're going to be kind of focusing in on here. But we want to set up a conference that people go, yeah, I'm going to take the time. I'm going to take a Saturday away from my family, time off, that's worth going to. And I think that's the important piece for us. We want to see something put something together that's worthwhile.
I love that you have student discounts. I imagine you're going to have a lot of students there to partake in this, to see that outside education. I think it's great. We need more conferences in the state of New Hampshire. And I love that you guys are doing it. You guys are sticking with it. And are tickets still for sale, or are they done? Are you done now?
Nope, they're still for sale.
Okay.
I think we put I don't remember the exact date, but I think the end of the month is when we were going to stop. So we had a little bit of breathing room to make sure we had everything put together. I think it was the first week in September.
Okay.
Is when we're going to put a stop on them. So nope, still got space.
That's excellent.
Not a lot of space, but we still have space.
And I think I might have missed it because I was looking at this stuff. Your attendance for this year, is it higher than last year?
It is already. Yep.
Beautiful. That is fantastic.
I
love it.
Last time we spoke, I think we were at 54 people, and we've actually got another meeting tomorrow.
And you're partnered in with Lakes Region Fire Mutual Aid, correct?
Yes. Yep.
And where do they fall in line with
their
that?
Training division or their training committee. Yep.
Okay. Because I see them.
The collaboration between the two of us. They're really more the point for this, and we're more the collaborator.
Okay.
Yep.
And for anybody going to the conference, anything special they need to bring, just bring their open ears and willingness to learn.
Yeah, bring their open ears if they're doing one of the hands-on things. Because we're not the academy, because we're the college, we can do some hands-on things here, but we don't have a huge amount of props. So there'll be, I don't think there's any gear that's going to be needed in any of them. I'm trying to think through all the 26. Most of it's going to be, demonstration.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yep, just bring yourselves, bring an appetite because food's going to be included.
What do we got for food?
Yeah, your ears.
That's fantastic. All right. And well, you said food. What do you have for food? Anything special? Anyone that you want to plug for food, or is it cafeteria food?
So it's actually, we have we have a cafeteria here, but we have a caterer that actually cooks for the students when the students are back. Mm-hmm. So Dave's going to actually provide meals for this. So it'll be simple lunch things, some snack things.
Fantastic.
But yeah, he's actually for short money, man. I think we got the best college food, etc.
That's great. And I love it because, you also get people checking out the facility and actually seeing what it's all about and where it is, and inspire people to take classes if they need to take classes.
Yep.
I love what you're doing, Nick. I love what all you guys are doing. It's great. I love this information that you're giving. I'm going to have you on again because honestly, an hour isn't enough. We need to talk more about everything about LRCC and more about the conference as well, and talk about all the people you're having on there. Nick, I really appreciate you being on the C.A.N Report, my friend. Is there anything before we start going here? Anything you want to plug? Anything you want before, if anything we missed?
No, I don't think there's anything we missed. I think, the plug is that, this is a team sport, and it's getting more and more complicated, every day, every year. Make sure that we take care of ourselves, take care of our brothers and sisters too. When somebody needs help, make sure that you're there for them. Like I said, we don't need to be eating our own. We need to be growing them.
Yes, sir.
And that means, we need more mentors, and we need, individuals within the fire service, within fire and emergency services, whether it's police, fire, EMS, it doesn't matter. This is a team sport, and really just please don't forget that. Take care of each other.
I love it. Great message, Nick. It's usually when I end my conversations, I like to make sure we're plugging Next Rung. Next Rung, real talk right there. Like you talk about taking care of our own. The guys over at Next Rung, they do fantastic work. I always like to make sure that I plug them because they're helping others get help. And like you said, we've got to stop eating our own, taking care of each other. It starts honestly with the person who is struggling. If they need help, they need to talk to somebody. That's the first step is talk about it, get the help you need, because if you don't open up, then we don't know how to fix it for you. So make sure you are reaching out to these guys. Here's their barcode. If you guys need to reach out to them, please, by all means, do so. They raise funds for people who aren't able to get themselves help. They help arrange appointments for people who need to talk to somebody. They'll look up where you live, and they'll reach out to those counselor services and help them get appointments so they can get where they need to be for their family and other ones. So, Nick, thank you so much for being on the C.A.N Report. I really appreciate you. Again, we do have the second New Hampshire Fire and Rescue Conference. It's coming up September 13th. We have our keynote speaker, Aaron Heller, titled You're in the Big Leagues Now. That is going to be fantastic. Aaron Heller is, as I think a lot of us know, is an amazing person, loves the fire service, and he's such a great human. So I'm really excited to see him in his keynote. Thank you so much, Nick, for all that you do and the services that you provide for the state of New Hampshire.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the C.A.N Report, and I appreciate what you do, man. Keep going.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. All right, people, take care. Stay safe. Love you all. Nozzle top.